You will see when you receive the feedback letter that I listed these three resources for for plagiarism. So if I wrote on your assignment that you've copied a section or that there's plagiarism, then just go and visit these resources so you know how to identify plagiarism and you know how to avoid it. There's also a lesson on MyUnisa, teaching you how to avoid plagiarism. Liana created those lessons. And then those three resources, those three lessons on MyUnisa, art history sources, avoiding plagiarism, and writing assignments. Those are very important for you to work through if you didn't do too well in this assignment, because it explains really nicely how to structure your assignments, how to identify sources, what works and what doesn't. All right. Sorry, let me just go back to the common problems. Poor structure, okay, you can do that when you work through that lesson, and I'll discuss the examples just now. All right, so the assignment essay or the assignment question was divided in very specific parts. You had to give definitions of the space, place, and place. Then you had to select a location in your immediate environment, your home, your place of work, something like that. And then you had to discuss three aspects with reference to your selected place. Right, so what you had to do to be able to answer the question successfully was to work through Learning Unit 1 in the study guide. That study guide explains all the aspects very specifically. And then for e-reserves, at least the three that I listed there, Agnew, Pollock, and Ward. Most of the students actually did mention those three, so that was good. All right, then you will see in the tutorial letter, I have a rubric. The reason why I include the rubric is to help students to include everything that I want in the assignment, because our students just go off on their own thing and they don't answer what we want. So, and the rubric is also there for you to know how much time you must spend on each section of the question. So for the definitions, it counts 15 marks, 5 marks each. And you have to define space, place, and ideology, because these three terms are really what the learning unit is about. So when you discuss space, quite a few students discussed it as an element of art, positive, negative space, outer space, space between things, and all of those things are technically correct, but you must remember what we're actually learning in the module. So we always have to refer back to what we are teaching for this specific module. So I was looking for keywords like that space is a social construction. It reflects social relations. It can be abstract and physical. Space is infused with power and symbolism. And also space, there's local space and global space. And when we speak about global space, you will also speak about virtual spaces. Right, then place is, you had to, sorry, someone is messing with my screen. All right, place. When you discuss place, you had to, most students got this part right. So space is filled with places. Place is a site that is constituted by social relations. So you identify and you identify yourself in terms of place. Those are things like when you say, where are you from? Then you say, I'm from this place. Place is also an anchor of shared experiences, and it's a crucial part of human identity. Ideology, most students got this right. I think we've included it in so many modules that by now everybody knows what it is. So here I was looking for you to say that it has to do with a dominant worldview. It is a system of social domination We use ideology to understand and to simplify reality. But then very few students mentioned this, that spaces are infused by ideology and that spaces have rules, and those rules come from ideologies. And then examples of ideology is things like patriarchy, feminism, capitalism, and consumerism. Right, now the next part was you had to choose an example. Most students chose home, which is fine because home is actually a very easy um, space to explain according to what we are learning in this unit. And also, most of us are pretty much stuck at home, so we can't really venture out and take pictures of interesting places. So home, school, mall, and different types of shops. Those were successful examples. I will show you a few images of those examples. And then unsuccessful examples would be something like the whole of Mamelodi or the whole of Pretoria, or a single room with one function, like a bedroom. But like I said, most students chose home, and the other examples were pretty good. All right, so this is an example that was really interesting. It was a example of a general dealer. Um, and you can see that when you speak about a shop like that, it has the liminal space is there, the gendering of space is there, and the difference of between place and space is also easy to explain. This one was quite interesting because the student explained a single room because that is the setup of his house. So when you look at the top image, you can see it's a sitting room, but right next to it, there's a bookshelf. And then the way that he explained it is next to that bookshelf is his, what happened now? Sorry, it seems that the...
Yeah, as students, I want to ask you, please do not record the meeting. I'm recording it, and also do not share your screen, because if you are going to toggle with any of the settings, then the presenter is not able to present. So please just listen and use the hand tool. That is all that you are supposed to be doing now, please.
Thank you. All right, so this space behind that bookshelf is his working space, and and then behind the couch is the kitchen. So it's a single room that is basically a complete house. So that type of space worked very well as an example. And then like this one was very unsuccessful because the student tried to explain the whole of Pretoria Central. And while there are interesting areas within that could have worked, if you try to do so many, it won't work because the assignment is quite short. And then you lose depth and you don't do so well. This was the example of the bedroom. It's a single use bedroom. There's nothing else in it. And then you can't really explain it in terms of any of the concepts that was required of you. Okay. Right. So when you discuss the difference between space and place, it's basically a rehash of the definitions, but now you had to refer it back to the example that you're discussing. So when you speak of space, you had to say it's part of everyday life. So if you speak of your home, it is part of everyday life, work, something like that. It is both a physical space, you can touch it, you can go into it, it's material, but it's also abstract because when you speak of home, there's much more to it than the physical place that is there. So you attach your own meanings to that space through its use and the way it is experienced. It also changes over time. So for instance, when you grew up in a house and you move away and you grow up and you go back, then everything looks different. It looks smaller, it doesn't smell the same, it doesn't look the same. So that's what I mean with it changes over time. It's infused with power relations. So there are certain rules, there are certain functions that are relevant to certain areas. It's coded for specific behavior. So if you go to the mall, you know what to do, you know how to dress, you know how to behave. So you behave differently at the mall than you would at home, for instance. And that also has to do with the rules in a specific space. Then what was interesting is quite a few students made the connection with their working at home, where work, even though it's in their bedroom, for instance, it becomes a workspace because it's a virtual space. So that was quite interesting that the students made that connection, that work becomes virtual, even though it's at home. Let me just admit this guy. All right. Sorry. Then place is a location. It's an occupation of a location. It's a site of identity. It's a reference point of life. So you'll say, I come from home, or I work here, or I work there. It has distinct qualities, and it gives you a sense of belonging. All right, then gendering of space. It wasn't always successful. A lot of students spoke of bathrooms, like when you go to the mall, the male toilet is a male space or masculine space, and the female toilet is a feminine space. Or if the bathroom is decorated in a feminine way, it makes it feminine. Or if your workplace is decorated in a feminine way, it is a feminine space. That's not what I was after. When we speak of the gendering of space, we speak of ideology, and it has to do with oppression. So here you had to refer to the public and private dichotomy, where public spaces are open and accessible. It's used for productive work, so work that you get paid for. And those spaces, we are typically say that they are masculine. And then private spaces are hidden and withdrawn, and are spaces where we do reproductive work. And reproductive work are things like childcare or cooking or looking after the family. That's work that you don't get paid for. And those spaces has to do with oppression. So for instance, in the division of labor, when women are typically supposed to look after children, and that is a site of oppression, and then the spaces that they act in is feminine spaces. Right, so examples of that, this was a really good example in terms of the gendering of spaces. This was a school that the student discussed. And for instance, I think the image is a bit small now. Let me see if I can make it bigger. Like the classroom and the hall, those are the open and accessible and public spaces. But the sick room, where the sick kids go. So when we think of who the school nurse is, it's always or usually a female. And typically nurses don't work under good conditions, they don't get paid a lot, and things like that. The same with the tuck shop. The tuck shop is typically manned or women or fielded by women. Women are doing work in terms of cooking and cleaning, things like that. All right. Yeah, is a kitchen. A lot of you discussed kitchens as a feminine space, and that's good. That is correct. All right, then liminal spaces. Liminal spaces in general was answered better than gendering of spaces. So in liminal spaces, it has different rules and controls in society. It's a transitional space. So for instance, an airport or a station or a bus stop, that's a transitional space because it's sort of in between somewhere and somewhere else. It can also be a threshold between two spaces, like a window or a doorway or a or a passage, something like that. Those are liminal spaces. So those type of liminal spaces are on the periphery, and they are invisible environment. Here we have some examples. Oh, this was a very interesting example. The student discussed a mosque. And then the courtyard is sort of a liminal space because the rules that apply in the rest of the mosque doesn't apply here. And the courtyard is used for different functions than it would be for the rest of the mosque. The mosque also had very interesting gendering of space, which was really successful in the discussion. This one was also very good. This is probably the best example of a liminal space. This is a little passageway between the person's house and the wall. So this space is used to walk in between between the houses. It's also used as a hiding spot for if there's a problem. So this is really a good example of a liminal space because it's a no space. It's too small to be of use for anything else. It's almost too small to walk through, but it's still used as a walkway. And then the next one, this is an elevator. It's also a perfect example of a liminal space because it's sort of a no space. It takes you between levels, and if you're in there, it's weird. It's not like a room. It's not like it's not open. It's a different type of space. All right, then in your conclusion, many students don't know what to say in the conclusion, and this is really easy marks. When you write the conclusion, you must summarize what you said. So you must say, in this assignment, I gave the definitions, I explained space and place with reference to this example. I said that the gendering of space works like this, the kitchen and the bedroom is the feminine spaces, and the liminal spaces are the doorways and the passageway. And that's your conclusion. And that's 5 marks that you get for really very little effort. And then the bibliography, students still stumble over the bibliography. I'm going to show you 3 bibliographies and you'll see what I mean. So yeah, the screen is probably a bit small, but the one on the left that there's a big 5 through, that's a really good bibliography. The student constructed it according to the guidelines, and that's 5 easy marks. And then the other 2, you can see, it is sort of where the student found the information, but it doesn't give me the exact details of where this information comes from. To get the bibliography right is really important for your 4th year, if you carry on to your 4th year, and if you plan to do postgraduate studies, then you really have to get this bibliography perfect. All right, and that is the end of my presentation. I've marked all the assignments except for the 4 students who submitted this week. But so if there are any questions, please ask.
Okay, if there are no questions at this moment, there will be another chance for you to ask questions. So let me just share my screen. Okay. So
Liana, your screen is not shared yet.
It's not.
No, just try again. I think when I pressed on dismiss, it disappeared.
Okay, fine. Let me just go back. Oh, I see. Yes. Okay, fine. There we go. Right. So I'm not going to speak in such detail about the second assignment because you need to do it first. When I've marked the second assignment, we will have a feedback session again before the exam so that we can just iron out some of the problems that arise when you do the assignment. Now, the learning unit that this assignment is based on is Learning Unit 2. So you will see your study guide has 3 units, but this year we're not going to do Learning Unit 3. So Learning Unit 1 is the first assignment and Learning Unit 2 is the second one. And this learning unit is all about the landscape. And it's very important that when you approach this assignment, that you must remember and consistently think about what you've learned in the first study unit, because a discussion of the landscape is also all about ideology, space, and place. So keep these things in mind, things such as gender, things such as liminal spaces. And there's a specific section of the assignment that deals specifically with ideology as well. Okay, so I'm just going to read the question. Now, if you are an ECP student, your question will look slightly different, but it essentially comes down to the same thing. So this question is from the tutorial letter that all the students got, tutorial letter 001. But if you're an ECP student, just make sure that you answer the exact correct question, because there's a slight difference, but it's going to come down to the same thing. So before the question, I've just put that little paragraph which says, the landscape remains an important theme of artistic expression for contemporary artists. In South Africa, artists engage with the landscape in various ways. The assignment question deals with the ways in which contemporary South African artists engage with natural spaces in their work. So the first thing that you must see here is I want you to look at contemporary artists. So I would say of the last 10 years. Okay, don't deal with artists who made work in the 80s and 90s. There's someone that's got their mic on. If you can just switch that off, Estelle, or if you can maybe mute them. And then here's the question. It says, choose one contemporary, and I've put there 2010 to current, South African artist, and write an essay where you explore some of the ways in which the artist works with the landscape or the natural world to challenge certain assumptions about culture, race, class, or gender. So again, you see these ideologies coming through here. And these are many of the things which we spoke about in the first assignment. Now, the next part is very important. It says here, you may refer to any of the following approaches. Now, these ones are all theories, and all of these theories are in the study guide. I'm going to show you now where you can find them. So the first one is picturesque aesthetics. The second one is the beautiful and the sublime. The third one, the queer landscape. Then the last two are landscape phenomenology and landscape ideology. Okay. So picturesque aesthetics. Before I start this section, let me just note this, that I'm going to now show you exactly where in the study guide you can find these things and which e-reserves. But before you make a decision on which of these you want to choose, please read the entire Learning Unit 2 and do all the activities, because this will help you decide which one you will feel most comfortable with. Because some of them, it might look to you like the readings are not many, such as phenomenology. But phenomenology is a very difficult and dense theoretical area. So it might be better for you to read a little bit more about, for example, the beautiful and the sublime, and rather do that one. So first, please read the entire Learning Unit 2 before you start with this. Okay, so picturesque aesthetics, that one you will see is quite close to the beginning of the section on page 33. Again, please do the activities. It's important that you do them. And that activity specifically, it says also you should read a section from ARH3601, the Arts and Ideology, and I've put the pages there. And it's important that you do that because you need the historical background. Okay, then under your recommended books, there's two books. The first is Landscape and Power by Mitchell. That book, unfortunately, is only available in hard copy, but you can order it through the library. However, if you're not able to get your hands on that book, it's not a problem, because there's also the Benningfield e-book, and that whole book would be very helpful for you in this question. Okay, so the next one is The Beautiful and the Sublime. And that is actually the next section in the study guide. So I've put there from page 35 to 38. Once again, you should please do the activities. And if you see artists there that are interesting for you, go onto the internet and do a little bit more research on your own. And then there are several chapters there in Mitchell that refers to that, to the beautiful and the sublime in Mitchell. And Mitchell is a wonderful book. If you can get your hands on that book and you're interested in landscape, it's a really interesting and well-written book. And then again, the Benningfield ebook, which you can all read. The next one, the queer landscape. There's a little section on that in the study guide. And then there are 2 e-reserves. So the one is by Jill Cassette, and the other one is by Theo Sonicus. So you may read those 2 e-reserves. But this is the kind of topic that you will find a lot on if you look at the e-journals on the library website as well. Then landscape phenomenology. There's also a section in the study guide. There's also a chapter in Mitchell. And then there's one article by Jenny Lawrence, and it's entitled Trust Your Gut. The last one is landscape ideology, which is probably the easiest one, I would think. And also you will be able to use a lot of the theory that you used in the first assignment there. There's a section in the study guide, and then there are 2 e-reserves. So the Komarov one explains very well how landscape and nationalism are connected. And then the next one I put on the e-reserves to show you an example of how an author applies a landscape ideology theory to a space. So actually, you know, the second one might be helpful for you just to see how the theory is applied. But you will see here that all of these readings are really just theory. What you must do now is you need to go okay, so first read the guidance notes of the assignment, and while you use the assignment again, use tutorial letter 301. Then you decide on one of these themes. So these are the themes. These themes, you need to decide which one you will feel most comfortable with. Then you have to make summaries of the main theories and theorists of your chosen theme, so that when you start writing your assignment, that you are sure that you know how these theories work and what is the most important. Now you need to choose artists, okay? And there are some gallery websites for you there. The Salon 91, Goodman Gallery, 99 Loop, Stevenson. So there are lots of gallery websites that you can go on, and you can look at the catalogs and which exhibitions they have running. And then you must look for artists who engage with the landscape or the natural world. Again, and I said this before and last week as well in the workshop for ARH3702, don't just choose artists that you like or that appeal to you. Choose artists that will enable you to discuss your specific theme adequately. Okay? Then you need to discuss your examples according to the theory. In other words, you're going to have an introduction for your essay. Then you're going to have a section in which you explain to us the theory that you are going to use. Then in the next section, you're going to discuss the artists and example of the works. So here, you can't just discuss the works according to the formalist aspects or the iconography or iconology. That is fine as an introduction, but you need to show that you understand these theories, picturesque aesthetics, the beautiful and the sublime, queer landscape, in terms of the artist's work. And remember also what the question asks. I'm going to go back to the question just so that we look at that. It says here, choose one contemporary South African artist and write an essay where you explore some of the ways in which the artist works with the landscape or natural world to challenge certain assumptions about race, culture, class, or gender. In other words, you have to address this question through your examples, and this is quite difficult. And this is why I say this assignment is going to ask of you to take another step forward. The first assignment was straightforward in the sense that, you know, you only really had to apply the theory to an example, but here you need to answer a question as well. And the question is, how does the artist challenge these assumptions? Okay. Now, if you've chosen your artist, and I think it would be good for all of you to at least read the study unit and choose your artist quite soon. I would say within the next 2 weeks or so. And then you may send me an email with your suggestion. And then I can just comment on that to make sure that you are on the right track. Okay, and that is it from my side.
Liana, there's a question from Stefan van Niekerk. Should we also write a short bio of the artist in assignment 2? And this theme should reflect on this artist that we choose.
So the bio, again, is not part of the question. So if you want to include a bio, that's fine, but only include it up to a level which it's absolutely necessary. In other words, is the bio of the artist really going to help us to understand the work, or to answer the question? If the answer is no, don't put a bio. For this question, my feeling is that probably you don't need a bio. But there might be a reason why you do need one. For example, if it's an artist who grew up on a farm in the Free State and they are doing performance works on farms in the Free State, then maybe this is relevant for us to know. But maybe it's not relevant at all. So you need to use your discretion there. And then, yes, the artist should reflect the themes that we are looking at. So, for example, maybe the artist has painted a scene on a farm, but in a very picturesque fashion. And then maybe you can comment on that. Or maybe they are painting city parks, but they are painting it in a way that we understand that there are maybe hidden dangers. So you need to, that is why I say it's very important that you choose your theme first. So what are you working with? Are you working with picturesque or sublime? So sublime is when we are seeing something that's very scary in the landscape, and that's all explained in the study guide. Or maybe we look at works where there are performances in which space is queered. Now, you need to go and read all about it in order to understand what I'm referring to now. But you need to choose artists that you can work with in terms of your chosen theme. Okay. Okay, there's another one. Yes, you should only choose one theme. You will see that when you start reading the study guide, that all of these themes are quite dense. Although, Rebecca, if maybe you are writing about the queer landscape, but the artist has also used picturesque aesthetics, yes, then you can bring that in as well. So I would say choose one theme and focus on that. But if you might want to mention the sublime or the picturesque, then you are free to do so. Okay, great. So that is clear for you, Rebecca. And then maybe use multiple paintings or artworks from the artist. Yes, Stefan, I think it will be good if you discuss at least 2 examples. Or if you discuss maybe a performance work, then, you might only need 1, but I think 2 is good. But again, just as many as you think will enable you to answer the question sufficiently. Okay, so is that it? Does everyone think they know how to start at least in doing the second assignment? Then please email me if you struggle with that assignment or if you struggle to find information. I will answer you as soon as I can and as quickly as I can. And please don't wait until 2 nights before the assignment is due. I really want to urge all of you to at least read the section in the study guide as soon as you possibly can. Okay, is that it? Estelle, do you still want to say something?
No, I just want to tell the students that I was really impressed with the assignments this year. They were really good, some really interesting ones, and I think that this semester our pass rate will be better than usual, and I am sure that the students who are here today will definitely pass the module and go on to maybe postgraduate studies. Thank you. Okay,
great. Thanks, Estelle. Thanks everyone for attending, and I will also post the recording of this session on YouTube and send you all the link through an announcement.
Liana, there's one student. Oh, no, she just...
Okay, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Jonas, yes, you can speak.
Can I use the artist that use photographs instead of paintings in assignment 2?
Liana, are you still in the meeting? Jonas, can you just type that in the chat? And I see Liana's left the meeting already. You came in a little bit late, and then or send her an email, and then just ask her directly. I'm not. I don't mark the second assignment, so I don't want to tell you the wrong thing.
Okay.
Lerato, do you have something to ask?
No, I don't.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.